The attic room smelled like cedar and rain. My grandmother had folded fresh sheets on the bed before I arrived. She smiled too hard, trying to make it feel normal. I knew it was. Boxes lined the corner, old memories stored beside new exile. 3 miles away, my mother probably cooked dinner for the twins. I wondered if she noticed the empty chair at the table. Grandpa brought me a cup of cocoa, the way he did when I was 10. His hand shook slightly as he set it down. "You'll be safe here," he said softly. Safe wasn't the word I wanted. I wanted to feel wanted. Later, when the house grew quiet, I unpacked in slow motion. Each item carried a memory that no longer had a home. My calculus trophy. The photo album that stopped the year my siblings were born. My name scribbled in fatting marker on the inside of a backpack. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. The next morning, sunlight crept through lace curtains. I found a yellow school form near my desk, fallen from my bag. It was a change of address slip. My mother's handwriting curved neatly across the bottom. The date printed in the corner was 6 weeks before the spreadsheet day. She had planned it long before telling me. My chest tightened, a sharp, hollow ache beneath my ribs. Grandma noticed my silence. "What's that, sweetheart?" she asked, setting down her tea. I handed her the paper. Her eyes narrowed, lips pressing into a thin, trembling line. "Oh, Emma," she whispered, anger flickering in her tone. She walked to the kitchen phone, voice rising with every word. "How could you do this to your own daughter, Laura?" I sat frozen on the couch, fingers gripping the edge of the cushion. Through the wall, I heard my grandmother's fury break through the distance. "You don't calculate a child's worth like a grocery bill." The words struck deep, even though they weren't meant for me. I realized she was fighting the battle I couldn't. When the call ended, she returned, face pale and tight. "She says it's for the best," Grandma said flatly. I laughed without humor. Of course it was. For them. Not for me. That night, rain hit the window in soft, uneven rhythms. I sat at the desk, writing in my notebook, trying to stay steady. Each line turned into a promise. I would not be their mistake. I would not disappear quietly. If they could remove me like a number, I would rebuild myself into something uncountable. Outside, thunder rolled across the hills, low and distant. It sounded like applause for a vow no one else could hear. I closed my notebook and whispered to the empty room. They might have erased me, but I'm still here. The light flickered, the rain slowed, and silence filled the cracks. That silence became my beginning. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and grease. My first shift started on a Thursday evening. The manager handed me an apron that smelled of detergent and old smoke. "Keep moving, keep smiling," she said and walked away. I didn't know how to smile anymore, but I knew how to move. I wiped tables until my wrists ached. I refilled coffee cups for strangers who never looked up. Every tip felt like a small victory, a tiny piece of control. At closing, I counted 3 crumpled dollar bills and 42 cents. Enough for the bus ride home and a granola bar. Grandma waited up, a lamp glowing beside her chair. "You don't have to work so hard," she murmured. I just nodded. If I stopped moving, I'd start thinking. And thinking hurt too much. At school, I kept my head down. No one asked why I moved in with my grandparents. Rumors filled the silence anyway. I pretended not to care. In the bathroom stall, I sometimes read my mother's last text. It said, "We're doing what's best for everyone." I wondered if she repeated that line to make herself believe it. After class, I'd rush to the diner, my shoes squeaking on wet sidewalks. The neon sign buzzed like a heartbeat. By the end of each night, I could smell exhaustion on my skin. Still, I kept going. Grandpa would leave sandwiches wrapped in foil on the counter for me. He never said much, just smiled when I came in late. His kindness made the silence bearable. One evening, my Aunt Lucy visited after work. She placed a used laptop on the table. "Old, but it works," she said. I stared at her, unsure what to say. "You'll need it for college applications," she added. College? The word felt foreign, like something from a life that used to be mine. I told her my mother wouldn't sign the financial forms. Her jaw tightened. "Then I will," she said. It wasn't pity. It was defiance. And it gave me hope. That night, I sat at the kitchen table filling out forms under dim light. The house smelled of rain and lemon polish. Every click of the keyboard sounded like a heartbeat. I was building something, even if no one else could see it yet. When I finished, I looked at the clock. 2:07 a.m. My hands trembled, but I felt steady inside. I thought of the spreadsheet, of all the columns and numbers. Maybe I was just a subtraction to them. But here, I was writing my own equation. One that didn't need their approval. Before sleeping, I whispered to the ceiling. They removed me to make space. Now I'll fill it with everything they left behind. Outside, the wind pushed against the windows, cold and steady. It sounded almost like a promise. College felt like another planet. Crowded halls, new faces, no one knowing my story. I liked it that way. Anonymity was freedom. I worked mornings in the library shelving books. Afternoons in a small cafe 2 blocks from campus. Nights cleaning offices until my hands went numb. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Still, I kept my grades near perfect. Each A on a paper felt like reclaiming something they'd stolen. I didn't just study for a future. I studied for revenge. My professors called me driven. They didn't know what was driving me. One afternoon, Professor Torres called me after class. "You look exhausted," he said gently. I smiled the way you smile when you're too tired to explain. He handed me a flyer for an internship. "Normally for seniors," he said, "but I think you're ready." I stared at the paper until it blurred. Someone finally saw me for what I could be, not what I'd lost. That night, I walked home with a strange lightness. Not happiness, but purpose. At the diner, I told Lucy about it. She grinned and threw a dish towel over her shoulder. "Told you hard work pays off," she said. Grandpa nodded proudly when I showed him the acceptance email. His voice cracked when he whispered, "You're going to make it." I wanted to believe him. My first day at the internship, I wore thrifted heels and borrowed confidence. The office smelled like coffee and ambition. Everyone else had cars, designer bags, and family support. I had bus fare and determination. By week's end, my supervisor said, "You're the only one here who doesn't waste time." Of course not. Time was something I couldn't afford to waste. At night, I'd return to my dorm. Too tired to cry, too proud to stop. Sometimes, I'd catch my reflection in the window. The girl staring back looked nothing like the one who left home with duffel bags. She looked unbreakable. When the internship turned into a part-time job, I sent my first paycheck to Grandpa. He tried to refuse it. I insisted. "It's not repayment," I said. "It's gratitude." He smiled, tears pooling in his eyes. Weeks passed. My schedule grew tighter, my body thinner, my will stronger. I stopped checking my phone for messages that never came. The silence became a kind of peace. One evening, I opened my old notebook from the attic. Inside was the vow I'd written months ago. I will rebuild myself into something uncountable. I traced the words with my finger. They no longer felt like a wish. They felt like a prophecy fulfilled. I turned off the light and whispered to the dark. They subtracted me once. But now, I'm the sum of everything they lost. Outside, the city hummed with life, and for the first time I felt part of it. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I stopped by the grocery store for ramen and cheap coffee. The aisles smelled of detergent and nostalgia. And then I saw her. My mother stood in the cereal section, wearing a blue store vest. She looked smaller, older, her posture curved with fatigue. Two teenagers stood beside her, restless, impatient. The twins. My throat tightened, my pulse loud in my ears. She looked up, and our eyes met across the aisle. For a second, the world froze. Her lips parted. "Emma," she whispered, almost inaudible. The twins turned, confused. "Who's that?" one of them asked. My mother's hands gripped a box of Cheerios like a shield. "This is someone I used to know," she said. The words sliced through me cleanly, quietly. 2 years of silence, condensed into a single cut. I stepped closer, my voice steady and sharp. "No, I'm your daughter, the one you calculated out." Her face drained of color. "Please," she murmured, "not here." "Where then?" I asked. "In the house you erased me from." People began to stare. The twins looked between us, unsure what to believe. "You left us," the boy said softly. I laughed, bitter and trembling. "Is that what she told you?" My mother's lips pressed tight, eyes glistening but unyielding. "Enough," she hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself." I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm reminding you what you did." Her face crumpled, but the tears didn't fall. They never did when I needed them. The store manager approached, uneasy. I stepped back, raising my hands. "It's fine," I said. "I was just leaving." My mother reached out, a reflex too late. I walked past her, the sound of my footsteps echoing between shelves. Outside, the air was cold and electric. My hands trembled, not from anger but release. I had spoken the truth aloud. For the first time, she had to hear it. When I got back to my apartment, I collapsed on the floor. Not from grief, but from something like clarity. They had defined me once, unwanted, expendable, a number. But standing there today, I realized I'd rewritten that definition. I wasn't disposable anymore. I was undeniable. That night, I sat by the window, city lights flickering below. The reflection of my face stared back, tired, tearless, free. I whispered to the glass, my breath fogging its surface. She said I was someone she used to know. A small smile tugged at my lips. She was right, that girl doesn't exist anymore. Outside, traffic murmured like a distant applause. Inside, I finally exhaled the years I'd been holding in. It didn't hurt anymore. It only burned enough to remind me I was alive. Years passed faster than I expected. Work became my rhythm, my purpose, my armor. Each promotion felt like proof that I had survived the math they used to erase me. By 31, I had a title on my office door and a view of the city skyline. Regional Operations Director. The kind of job my stepfather used to brag about wanting. Sometimes I wondered if he still kept spreadsheets. One Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A short message blinked on the screen. "It's been a long time. We should catch up." My chest went cold. My mother's number, deleted years ago, still recognizable. I didn't reply. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, expecting a delivery. They stood there instead. My mother and David. Older, smaller, but still carrying that quiet entitlement. "Emma," she said, voice trembling, "you look well." I didn't invite them in, but David stepped forward anyway. He looked around my apartment with a calculated smile. "Nice place," he said. "Very successful, I see." My mother's eyes darted to the family photos on the wall. Not one included them. "What do you want?" I asked. She hesitated, twisting her purse strap. "The twins are starting college next year," she said. David cleared his throat. "Tuition's gone up quite a bit," he added. I stared at them, disbelief mixing with a bitter laugh. "You came here for money." David shrugged, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "You're established now," he said. "It's family helping family." Family. The word felt like poison. I stepped back, crossing my arms. You taught me what family means the day you sent me away. My mother flinched. That's not fair, she said softly. We did what we had to for the twins. I smiled without warmth. And now, you want me to do what you need for them. Her lips trembled. David's tone hardened. This is your duty, Emma. Christian duty. I almost laughed. I fulfilled mine when I didn't report you for abandonment. Silence filled the room like static. I moved toward the door. Leave, I said quietly. David didn't move. We have a right to be heard, he snapped. No, I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. You don't. I dialed the police with steady fingers. My mother's eyes widened. You wouldn't, she whispered. But I did. Minutes later, flashing lights painted the walls blue and red. The officers escorted them out, my mother crying quietly, David muttering threats. When the door shut, I locked it and leaned against the wall. The silence afterward was thick and clean. I had ended the equation. They couldn't subtract me anymore. I whispered into the stillness. You once measured my worth in numbers. Now I'm the total you can't afford. The phone rang a week later. An unknown number again. I almost ignored it, assuming another scam. But something in me hesitated. Hello, I said cautiously. A young man's voice answered. Is this Emma Rhodes? I froze. Who's asking? This is Chris, your brother. The name hit like a wave I wasn't ready for. My hand tightened around the phone. If this is some trick from Laura or David. It's not, he said quickly. They don't know I'm calling. His voice cracked slightly. I found some old papers in the attic, financial ones. My heart pounded. They calculated you out, Emma, like you were just another bill. Hearing it from him made the truth sting all over again. I know, I whispered. I lived it. They told us you left because you didn't want a family. The bitterness in his tone was sharp, raw. I never believed them, he continued, but I was a kid. Silence stretched between us. What do you want, Chris? I asked quietly. To see you, he said, to know you. My breath caught. 14 years had passed since I last saw his face. You're sure they don't know? I swear, he said, I just want to meet my sister. Against every instinct, I said yes. We met at a small cafe halfway between our cities. I arrived early, sitting near the window. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. When the bell above the door rang, I looked up. He was taller now, same green eyes, same uneven smile. For a moment, I saw the little boy I used to read to. He walked over slowly, unsure, hopeful. Hey, he said, I've been waiting 14 years for this. I laughed, shaky but real. We talked for hours. He told me about college, about his sister Anna, about how they'd started asking questions. They lied to us for so long, he said, but we know now. When we said goodbye, he hugged me tight. Thank you for not disappearing, he whispered. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost. Weeks later, I invited them, Chris, Anna, Aunt Lucy, and my grandparents, for dinner. The table glowed under soft light, laughter spilling between stories. My grandmother brought her sweet potato casserole. Grandpa made a toast. To the family that chooses to stay, he said. 6 glasses clinked together. I looked around at the faces I loved. The ones who never measured me. After dinner, I stood on the balcony with Lucy beside me. You did good, kid, she said softly. You turned pain into something beautiful. I smiled, watching the city lights flicker. My phone buzzed, a message from Chris. Thanks for letting us be part of your life. I typed back slowly. Family isn't about obligation, it's about choice. And for the first time, the word family felt right again. The night ended quietly. The dishes were washed, the laughter still echoing in the walls. I stood by the window, city lights blinking like old memories. Grandpa's voice replayed in my mind. To the family that chooses to stay. Those words stayed with me longer than any apology ever could. For years, I had chased the idea of being enough. Now, I finally understood I always was. They didn't break me when they sent me away. They freed me to build something real. Behind me, the scent of coffee lingered, warm and steady. Aunt Lucy hummed softly as she packed leftovers. Chris and Anna laughed over an inside joke only siblings could share. I turned to look at them, my heart calm, my chest light. The girl who once carried duffel bags down a driveway was gone. In her place stood a woman who chose her own name, her own worth. I whispered into the night, just loud enough for myself to hear. I am not what they subtracted. I am everything I added. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. It sounded like closure.